mysterious and thrilling. Prepare to be transported to the eerie landscapes of abandoned Texas towns, where forgotten tales of tragedy and mystery await. This journey will uncover the secrets that haunt these deserted settlements and leave you questioning the truth behind the legends. But before we begin, here's something strange. Most viewers make one huge mistake. They leave without subscribing, and by doing so, they miss out on the creepiest, spine-tingling tales that only the bravest dare to hear. Don't be one of them. Hit that subscribe button now, because tonight's just the beginning, and the terror waiting in the darkness is far from over. So, where are you watching from? And what time is it there? Let me know in the comments, because here, the night is only getting started, and the horror is waiting to unfold. Now, let's dive into the darkness. Terlingua was the kind of place you didn't end up in by accident. It was a broken dot on a forgotten road near the edge of the Chihuahuan Desert, all sun-bleached bones and stubborn ghosts. The old mining town had long since crumbled into rust and dust, its buildings sagging like they were tired of standing. You could drive straight through and not even know it was once full of life. Families, saloons, prayers, lies. Mostly lies. It had been silent for nearly 100 years, but something still stirred beneath the rocks. Eddie Vance didn't believe in ghost stories. He was a retired welder out of Fort Worth, with arthritis in both knees and a bottle of Jim Beam rolling around under the passenger seat of his rust-colored Ford Ranger. After his divorce, he figured he'd try something new, something quiet. A friend told him about Terlingua, cheap land, no neighbors, and the kind of peace you could only get from the desert. Eddie was tired of noise, tired of people. Terlingua sounded like a damn vacation. He bought a trailer home on a slab, not far from the old mine entrance. Locals at the Terlingua Trading Company told him not to go poking around the shafts, especially after sundown. Things echo down there, the old man behind the counter had muttered, but sometimes the echo's louder than what caused it. Eddie laughed it off. He'd heard creepier stories working oil rigs. On his first week, he drove his pickup out past the cemetery, rows of crumbling wooden crosses, and walked the perimeter of the mine. Just old boards, rusted equipment, and enough dust to choke a horse. Still, something about the place felt unsettled, like the ground itself was holding its breath. The first time he heard the knocking, it was around 2:13 in the morning. He was sitting in his trailer with a beer in one hand and a rerun of Walker, Texas Ranger, humming low on the TV. The knock wasn't at his door. It came from underground. Dull, metallic thuds, steady like someone swinging a pickaxe far beneath the earth. 3 beats, pause, then 3 more. He muted the TV and listened. Nothing. The next night it came again. Same rhythm, louder, like it had moved closer. By the 5th night, Eddie wasn't sleeping. The knocking had become almost constant. It would stop when he stepped outside, then start again, the moment he went back in. He tried to record it with his phone, but the sound never came through. Just static and a low rumble, like wind trapped in a coffin. One morning, he found footprints in the dust around his trailer. Not shoe prints, bare feet, narrow and long, with toes splayed like they'd never worn boots. They started at the base of the hill and circled his trailer twice before vanishing into the earth. Literally. The final print sank into a crack near the front step and just stopped. He asked a gas station clerk about it the next day. The girl had green hair and a bored expression, but when he mentioned the mine, her face changed. "You're not hearing the knocking, are you?" she asked, almost whispering. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. She leaned in. "They died down there, the miners, back in 1908. Gas buildup in a cave-in. They suffocated. 37 men, all trapped. People say if you get too close, you start hearing them dig. Not to get out. They're digging up." Eddie laughed, but it was a dry, nervous sound. He stopped going outside after dark. He boarded up the windows. He drank more, and still the knocking grew louder. Some nights, he could hear voices, muffled groans like someone calling from the other side of a wall. Not words exactly, just suffering, familiar and endless. One night, he woke up choking. The air in the trailer had gone thick, like coal dust. His throat burned. He stumbled outside and found the entire landscape blanketed in fine gray powder. His truck tires were half buried. The footprints were back, dozens of them now, circling like vultures. He decided to leave, packed a duffel bag, tossed it in the truck, and didn't even bother locking the trailer. When he turned the key, the engine coughed and died. Again. Nothing but silence. Then he saw them. Figures at the edge of the mine, thin, dust-covered, eyes like empty sockets. They stood still as stone, heads tilted like broken dolls. One raised an arm, another took a step, and then they began walking toward him. Eddie ran, took off into the desert, flashlight in one hand, bag in the other. The sound of picks and shovels followed him, clinking off stone, dragging through gravel. He ran until the sun came up, until the knocking faded into bird calls and wind. A hiker found him 2 days later, curled up in a dry wash 20 miles outside town. Eddie never spoke again, just sat in a wheelchair at the Brewster County Psychiatric Ward, scratching at the arms of his seat like he was trying to dig through it. They say the trailer's still out there, still has power, weirdly. The TV flickers on some nights, even without a signal. And if you stand real still near the mine entrance, you might hear it too. That faint, rhythmic tapping. The sound of dead men still working, still digging, still trying to get out. Most folks today don't know where Indianola is, or was. It used to be one of the biggest ports in Texas, a proper city on the coast, mansions, churches, industry, politics. Back in the 1800s, they said Indianola was going to be the New Orleans of the West. But it didn't end that way. It didn't just dry up or go broke. Indianola vanished. Twice. The hurricanes took it, first in 1875, then again in 1886. Not just wind and rain. No, these were full-on divine acts, the kind of storms that chew through bone and faith. The water came up and pulled the town down with it. People drowned in their beds, in pews, in the streets. Their bodies washed out to sea or got tangled in the saltgrass. They buried what they could, but most were just lost. After the second storm, Indianola was abandoned, left to rot beneath the Gulf sun, picked apart by time and tides. The state declared it dead, but people who live nearby, fishermen, shrimpers, drifters, know better, because Indianola didn't die. Not really. Henry Collins was the kind of man who didn't mind solitude. A widower in his 60s, he lived out of a trailer he parked on a stretch of land a few miles inland from where Indianola used to stand. He painted birds, smoked cigars, drank rum, and listened to old blues on cassette tapes. Said he came down from Houston for the quiet. Said the air helped his lungs. But after a while, folks noticed Henry had started acting strange. kept walking down to the shoreline at night, talking to himself, leaving fresh fish on the sand, like offerings. When someone asked him about it, Henry just said, "They're getting restless again. I can feel it." No one pressed him. The trouble started with the tide. It came in high one night, real high, higher than it had any right to, with no storm on the radar, no rain in the air, just a black sky and a moon like a slit eye watching from above. The Gulf rose and flooded the old cemetery near Powderhorn Lake. Bones turned up in the shallows, real ones, jawbones, ribs, vertebrae, and a single locket still holding a rusted tintype photo of a woman smiling with no eyes. People said it was the weather, climate change, tectonics, but old folks whispered that it meant Indianola was stirring. Then came the footsteps. At first, it was just in the marshes, muddy tracks with no pattern, barefoot, long-toed and deep, like whoever left them was heavy, too heavy. Then they showed up along the road, around houses, outside windows, and always wet. The prints leaked, black water, smelled like old copper and rot. A teen couple camping near the old ruins claimed to have seen figures walk in across the flats at midnight. Thin figures dressed in rags, seaweed hanging from their arms, mouths full of sand. They moved slowly, like they were still underwater. The boy passed it off as a prank. The girl didn't. She was found 2 days later, face down in the marsh, lungs full of salt water. No footprints, no struggle, just her, drowned miles from the shore. Henry Collins vanished a week after that. His trailer was empty, coffee still warm, easel knocked over, and a series of fresh paintings left behind, all unfinished. They were portraits, men, women, even a child or two, all with pale skin, bloated faces, black tongues, drowned. Each one of them was staring straight ahead, like they'd seen something coming, and each face was grinning. The locals said the sea took him, but no one could explain the muddy handprints found on the inside walls of his trailer, or why the floors were covered in water an inch deep with no sign of a leak. People stopped going out after dark. Dogs howled for no reason. Crabs crawled miles inland. Something shifted in the wind, no longer soft and salty, but foul, thick with decay. A deputy who'd gone to check the old chapel ruins came back, white as a sheet, stuttering about pews full of shadows. Said he heard singing, low and slow, in German or Latin or something older. Said it came from under the floorboards. One night, during the new moon, a shrimp boat got pulled ashore, dragged like it had snagged something on the bottom. The crew was missing. All that was left was the captain's log, open to a page that simply read, "They're walking again. Don't look at them. Don't answer when they call your name." Nobody talks about Indianola now. The state put up a plaque, all clean and historical, like it was just another town that couldn't hold on. But if you stand at the shore on a windless night, you can hear it, the shuffle of wet feet through sand, a low wailing hum like a funeral dirge sung by drowned lungs. And if the tide comes up too fast, don't run, don't speak, don't move. They only see you if you move, and they always take one back with them, just to even the scales, just to remind us. The hurricanes weren't storms, they were warnings. Barstow, Texas, isn't much more than bones now. Just a scatter of busted buildings, a crumbling schoolhouse eaten by vines, and a half-sunk church that leans westward, like it's bowing to the wind. You wouldn't stop there on purpose. Hell, even the maps are starting to forget it exists. But there was a time, long ago, when Barstow was alive, A farming town, cotton, melons, big dreams, blown dry by the desert and time. Folks say the water dried up, but those who remember better, they talk about the wind. Because in Barstow, the wind never stops. It doesn't howl, doesn't moan. It whispers, constant, thin, like voices just behind your ear. Most say it's the shape of the valley, the heat, the pressure systems. But the people who lived there last, the ones who stayed after the post office closed, after the school shut its doors for good, they knew better. They'd stuff rags in their windows, hammer boards across every crack. They stopped speaking at night. They wore earplugs to sleep because they knew the wind was listening, and it was learning. In 1989, a survey crew passed through on their way to Pecos. The lead, a guy named Roger Tillman, was one of those clipboard and hat types, a practical man who liked numbers and neat things. He brought along 2 greenhorn interns and a topographical drone the size of a turkey. They stopped in Barstow for the night because one of the interns twisted an ankle in a gopher hole. Seemed harmless enough. Clear sky. Still hot. Town looked dead as a nail, but by dusk, the wind kicked up. One of the interns, a girl named Denise, said she kept hearing voices through the mesh of her tent. Whispers, some in Spanish, some in English, and others in words that didn't sound like anything at all. She thought it was Roger messing with her, until she looked out and saw him, standing at the edge of the camp, frozen still, head cocked to the side like he was listening. His eyes were wide, his lips moved, but no sound came out. Denise swore he was repeating something, like he was being taught a prayer he didn't understand. The next morning, Roger was gone. Just gone. No prints, no blood, no note. His tent zipper was open, and his boots were sitting neatly by the entrance, toes pointed out. They found the drone 30 feet up a mesquite tree, its propellers jammed with black hair. Denise and the other intern ran, drove through the night, windows down, ears ringing with those damn whispers. The boy never spoke again. Denise wound up in a facility near Austin, drawing spirals on the wall with crayons. Every spiral had a word in the center, Barstow. Since then, Barstow's had a rep. Urban explorers go for the thrill. Most don't stay past sundown. Phones stop working. Compass needles spin. You hear your own name whispered in a voice you thought was long dead. Your mother's, your childhood best friend's, your own. There's one building left mostly intact, an old farmhouse with flaking green paint. The wind there sounds different, more focused, like it's waiting. There's a story about a man who spent the night inside it for a podcast. His recorder picked up 6 hours of audio. First just wind, then whispers. Then, at 3:13 a.m., a clear voice saying, "You'll do." They found the recorder on the front step the next morning, still warm from his hand. No sign of him. His co-host played the audio on a live stream. Half the viewers claimed they heard something else. Different voices, different names. Some said the whisper kept going, long after the video ended. Said it came through their headphones. Said it didn't stop. Meteorologists blame the wind on a low-pressure corridor. Paranormal folks say Barstow sits on a fault line between worlds, a thin place, where thought becomes echo, where grief gets caught in the rafters like a spider web, where the dead murmur until someone listens, and the ones who listen too long, they become part of it. A man passing through last year, trucker, mid-50s, veteran, said he pulled over just to stretch his legs. No wind at first. Then he heard something soft, almost tender. James. That was his brother's name. Brother had been dead 20 years, lost in Iraq. He followed the voice into the brush, never made it home. His rig was found idling, driver's door open, seat still warm. The radio played static with words buried deep in the noise, words in a dead man's voice. There's nothing left in Barstow worth saving now. But the wind doesn't care. The wind wants. It's hungry for ears, for minds to crawl into. It brings the voices of those you miss most, wrapped in promises, soaked in lies. It knows the weight of your memories. It knows the crack in your heart, and it presses its whisper through that crack, over and over. So if you find yourself near Barstow, and the wind picks up, plug your ears. Don't stop moving. Don't answer. Because every gust brings a whisper, and one of them will say your name. Lobo, Texas, is one of those places you don't hear about, unless you're already lost. Just a dot on the map south of Van Horn, tucked into the emptiness like a secret someone buried deep in the desert. Once upon a time, it had promise. A school, a motel, a few trailers scattered like broken teeth along the highway. Then the water ran dry, the money disappeared, and the town folded in on itself like a paper doll caught in the rain. The last business to die was the gas station. Shiny red pumps with faded Texaco stars, a freezer full of freezer-burned burritos, a ceiling fan that always made a sound like someone whispering through their teeth. No one's worked there since 1991, but people say the lights still come on after dark, not just flickering from a bad circuit, on, fully lit, buzzing with sick yellow glow like a diseased halo. And if you're dumb enough to look through the glass, sometimes you see someone in there, watching. Truckers pass through and won't stop, not even to piss. Locals who live in Van Horn say you couldn't pay them enough to even drive past Lobo after midnight. One guy, an electrician named Dom Garza, took a job replacing a downed line out there in 2003. He stayed just long enough to flip the breaker. The station lit up. He swore someone was behind the counter, skinny, pale, with a face like a mannequin left too long in the sun. But what really shook him was the eyes. Said they glowed like cigarette embers. Dom drove straight back to town, left his gear behind, never went back. Said those eyes didn't blink, didn't need to blink. A couple from El Paso filmed a video for YouTube in 2011. Some ghost hunting channel, all cheap effects and shaky cameras. They made it to the gas station right at dusk, laughing the whole time. The footage cuts out at 9:34 p.m., right after they walk inside. No screaming, no static, just a clean cut, like the camera stopped on command. The camera was later found in a ditch 10 miles east, lens cracked, battery full. The couple never found. Their car sat in the lot for 3 weeks before the state hauled it away. People who've really seen it, people who've felt that glass door handle cold as a corpse's hand, say the inside hasn't changed at all. The gum rack is still full. There's a styrofoam cup near the register, and there's a stool in the corner that never casts a shadow. Some say the person sitting there is always different. A man in a janitor uniform, a woman in a wedding dress, soaked from the waist down, a kid missing their eyes. But no matter the shape, the eyes are always the same, bright red, burning from the inside, not alive, not dead. One man, retired cop from Fort Stockton, said he stopped there by mistake in 1997. Middle of the night, car overheating, no cell service. He walked up to the door, saw the lights were on, thought maybe it had reopened. As he stepped inside, the chime over the door rang, not like a bell, but like a scream held underwater. There was a guy behind the counter. Didn't speak, just stared. The cop asked about coolant, asked if the phone worked. No reply. Just those glowing red eyes locked on him, unmoving. He turned around to leave, but the door was gone. No frame, no glass, just wall. He turned back and the whole room had changed. Darker, smaller, like it was breathing. The man behind the counter was smiling now, teeth long and sharp like broken light bulbs. The cop blinked, and suddenly he was back outside, on the dirt, his hands bleeding, like he'd clawed his way out of something. He tried to report it. They laughed him out of the department, said he fell asleep behind the wheel, had a nightmare. But he never slept more than 2 hours a night after that, and he never drove west again. Old-timers claim it wasn't always like that. The station used to be run by a kind man named Harold Deeks. Always wore the same blue shirt and suspenders, gave out free coffee. Then one night in 1991, Harold didn't go home. His wife found his clothes folded neatly in the storeroom. The register was open. There were scratches on the inside of the cooler doors, like something had tried to get out. People said he ran off. But a boy camping nearby claimed he saw Harold standing behind the glass that same night, naked, eyes glowing red, smiling. Folks say the gas station in Lobo took him, swallowed him whole, like the town swallowed everyone else. They say the building is hungry now, not for money, not for gas, for people. The lonely ones, the broken ones, the curious ones who think they're just passing through. And if the lights are on when you see it, don't stop. Don't even slow down. Whatever's inside doesn't need help. It's not lost. It's waiting. And the eyes behind the counter? They never blink. They just watch. Toyah, Texas, isn't really a town anymore. Just a smudge on the map where the trains used to slow down long enough to drop off mail and pick up cotton. Most of the houses are gone now, their skeletons leaning into the wind like old men who've lost the will to stand straight. But the grain elevator still stands, towering, empty, rotting. It's the only thing left that casts a real shadow, and even that shadow seems wrong, too dark, too thick, like it's not just blocking the light but swallowing it. People say it's cursed. Of course they do. Every dying town in Texas has a story, a ghost, some dusty bit of folklore passed around over beer and cigarettes. But the thing in Toyah, what's in the grain elevator, it isn't just a story, it's something else. No one remembers who built it. That's the first weird thing. The town was booming in the 20s, sure, but there are no records of the elevator's construction, no blueprints, no permits, nothing in the newspaper archives. It's just there, like it grew up out of the ground. Locals say it was always part of the landscape, like the hills or the dry creek beds. Some folks say their grandfathers warned them never to play near it, that the crows wouldn't roost there, that the wind wouldn't blow through it. It would go around it, like the air itself was scared. In 1955, 3 boys disappeared near the elevator, playing hide and seek after school. Their bikes were found, leaned neatly against the wall, like they'd parked them on purpose. No signs of struggle, no blood, just a faint trail of wheat dust leading toward the service hatch. The sheriff locked it up and welded the door shut the next morning. But people say if you stood close enough, you could hear something moving inside. Not rats, not the creak of old machinery. Something bigger, slower, breathing. Years passed, the town withered, families moved away, and still the elevator stood tall, watching over the ruins like a grave marker no one dared touch. Then, in 1993, a group of amateur urban explorers from Odessa came through. Kids with cameras and flashlights and too much confidence. They cut the weld on the hatch and went inside just after sunset. They joked on the tape about finding Texas Slender Man and grain ghosts. Only one of them made it out. Her name was Ashley Doran. She was 17. When she stumbled into town the next morning, barefoot and bleeding from her nose and ears, she couldn't talk, not for months. Her hair had turned white. She spent a year in a psychiatric ward where she drew the same shape over and over. A long oval, like a cocoon or a silo, with black lines radiating out like roots or claws. Sometimes, in the middle of the oval, she'd draw an eye, just one, never two. She recovered eventually, moved to Oregon, changed her name. But before she left, she told one reporter from Midland a single sentence. "It isn't dreaming anymore." Locals have stories. Of course they do. They say sometimes at night, if the wind's just right, you can hear scratching on the inside walls. Slow, steady, like claws on concrete. Others say they've seen light coming from the topmost window. Sick, flickering, not from a bulb, but like fireflies crawling over something too large to move. A trucker swears he saw a shape up there once. Said it looked like a man, only not. Longer, wrong, like someone had stretched the bones too far and left the skin behind. They say what's in there feeds on time. That every decade it gets a little stronger, a little more awake. They say the missing boys were the first offering, and the rest, Ashley, the rats, the birds, the shadows, were just appetizers. It isn't full yet. It's been hungry a long, long time. The county put a fence around it in 2007. Put up signs, danger, unstable structure. But the signs always blow away, and the lock's been broken again. People go in, some come back, most don't. And the elevator, it stands tall, quiet, patient, like it knows you'll come eventually. After all, it's only just started to stir, and it's still so very hungry. They say Belle Plaine never really died. It just slipped away quietly, like a fading shadow at dawn. It used to be a small, proud town, set between Fort Worth and Abilene, like a forgotten marker on a lonely road. Right in its center stood Belle Plaine College, tall white pillars, sturdy brick walls, and a cross that caught the morning light so bright it nearly blinded you. Back then, folks believed the place was touched by God. For a time, maybe it was. But if God left, he didn't take everything with him. Most people say the college closed because of a fire, maybe faulty wiring or careless kids sneaking smokes. But those who were there tell a darker tale. They say the fire wasn't the end. It was what came after that destroyed the school. When the college reopened, something came with it. From the basement beneath the chapel, something old, something restless, something trapped long before the first brick was laid. It began with the bell, not the original one. The first bell had cracked years ago, split as if torn apart by a scream. The new bell was heavier, darker, with an oily gleam no one could explain. It wasn't in the budget. No one donated it. It just appeared one morning, hanging silent in the chapel's tower, like it had always belonged there. But when it rang, it wasn't a clear chime. It was deep, heavy, like thunder rolling underwater. Students said it hurt their teeth. Some claimed they heard whispers under the tolls, prayers in a language that made their skin crawl. Then the accident started. A theology professor was found hanging from the bell rope in '94. A music student was discovered in the basement, wrists broken, mumbling, "Not mine, not mine," until she couldn't speak anymore. A janitor went down to fix a pipe and vanished. When a groundskeeper searched for him, he came back pale and shaking, saying the walls were alive down there. He quit the next day, barefoot, walking all the way to Oklahoma. The college shut down the following spring. No fanfare, no explanation. The bell rang once more that morning. Just once. Then silence. Now, Belle Plaine is a ghost town. The chapel stands, roof collapsed, birds nesting in the rafters. The bell tower still holds the dark bell. Locals say the bell doesn't ring anymore. They're wrong. It rings. It just doesn't toll for everyone or during the daylight. Sometimes teenagers dare each other to enter, flashlight beams cutting through the black. They laugh too loud, but inside, the darkness moves like a wave, closing in. If you listen closely, you might hear something scurrying beneath the floorboards. Something large, something wet. They say the basement doors are chained shut with heavy locks and steel bars, but somehow they're never fully closed. Just cracked open, as if whatever lies below waits for someone foolish enough to open the door. No one has ever found the bottom of that basement. The stairs descend too deep. The air grows thick and foul. Old paper, mold, damp iron, and a sickly sweet smell like rotting flesh. Some say the college was built over a sacred burial ground, something older than any scripture. Others say the black bell awakened whatever had been sleeping below. When the bell tolls now, it's not just a sound, it's a feeling. Like your blood freezes, your bones want to run, but your skin pins you down. They say it tolls for the marked, the ones who heard the whispers and stayed too long. A rancher's son vanished in 2008 after telling his brother he met the priest down in the basement. The last priest left Belle Plaine in 1931. And that bell? It still hangs, never rusting, never falling, never cracking. It waits, like old things do, like hungry things do. It hasn't finished what it started. Every time it rings, just once in the dead of night, someone new disappears. A drifter, a runaway, or a curious soul with a flashlight, clueless about what crawls beneath the chapel floor. The town forgot. The college turned to ruins, but the bell still tolls, and whatever it called awake is still watching. There's something wrong with Glen Rio. Always has been. You can feel it before you even roll off the interstate. It's like the desert air changes, thicker, heavier, like you're breathing through cotton soaked in blood. The wind stops blowing, birds don't fly overhead, and the sun feels just a little too close to your skin. Back in the 50s, Glen Rio was a pit stop dream. A tidy row of motels, gas stations, diners with neon signs flickering under the Route 66 stars. Half of it lay in Texas, the other in New Mexico, split clean down the middle by the state line. A coin toss town, they used to say. You could fill your tank in New Mexico and sleep in Texas. It was kitschy and proud, a dot on the map where two worlds met. Now it's just dust, rust, and rot. The buildings still stand, sort of, half-collapsed facades and sun-faded signs that whisper of better days. A few boots still hang over the doors of old shops. Cracked tires litter the shoulder. The motel curtains are still drawn, even though no one's booked a room in decades. Locals say Glen Rio didn't die. It just crossed over. Nobody remembers exactly when it started. The last gas station closed in '84. After that, truckers stopped pulling off. Families stopped driving through, and the people that stayed, Well, they didn't act right. Not anymore. Eyes too wide, smiles too long. Standing in doorways, just watching, like they were waiting for something to catch up. Then they stopped showing up at all. Not long after that, stories started circulating. A backpacker who vanished after stopping to snap a photo of the state line marker. A group of ghost hunters whose car was found idling, doors open, gear still running. No sign of them. A woman who crawled out of the desert barefoot, shaking, mumbling about the man with two shadows and how he walks the yellow line every night, looking for someone to take back with him. What makes Glen Rio truly bad is that damn border. The white line painted down the middle of the highway. One side Texas, the other New Mexico. But stand there long enough, especially at dusk, and you'll swear the line isn't white. It's red. And moving, like it's bleeding, like it's alive. Some folks who go there say they saw people in the windows, just for a second. Pale silhouettes behind cracked glass, unmoving. Others swear they heard phones ringing in the old pay booths, even though the lines were cut years ago. If you answer, they say, it's always the same voice. A child maybe, or something trying to sound like a child. It whispers your name. Then it says, you're already here. You just don't know it yet. One man, a delivery driver named Rel Spence, claimed he lost 5 hours driving through Glen Rio. 5 hours, even though the stretch barely takes 5 minutes. He said the road curved where it shouldn't, looped in on itself like a snake eating its tail. He saw lights in the rear view that didn't belong to any car. And worse, every time he looked in the mirror, his own reflection smiled before he did. You'd think GPS would help. It doesn't. Signals go dead the second you cross the county line. Batteries drain in minutes. Dogs won't step a paw past the border. One mutt tried, sprinted into the town like it caught a scent, and didn't make a sound. Just stopped running and lay down in the middle of the street, tail between its legs, like it had given up on being alive. There's a reason people call it the borderline. Not just the states, but something thinner. Like the veil between worlds is just a little worn there. Like the rules don't quite apply once you're inside. You might think you're alone walking down that empty main road, but you're not. Glen Rio has watchers. They hide in shadows. They crouch under the eaves. You never see their faces, only shapes and eyes. The motel lobby still has keys on the wall, if you're dumb enough to look. Rooms 1 through 13. But the keys are wrong, made of bone, not brass. And if you take one, well, don't expect to check out. No one's ever made it past room 7 and come back to talk about it. Some say Glen Rio was cursed before it was even built. The border wasn't meant to divide land. It was meant to seal something in. Some old hunger. Some crooked deity that liked the taste of in-between places. And now it's waking up again, stretching beneath the sand and cracked pavement, eager for company. Don't stop in Glen Rio. Not even for a second. Don't turn around if you hear your name whispered from the weeds. Don't follow the lights. And for the love of everything still holy, do not step over that painted line. Not even 1 foot. Because if you do, you might find yourself somewhere you don't recognize. Somewhere not quite Texas. Not quite New Mexico. And definitely not alive. Nobody talks about Catarina anymore. Not really. It's one of those ghost towns you pass on an old county highway without even realizing it. Blink and you're through. The sign's still there, rusted and slumped at an angle like it's too tired to stand. Welcome to Catarina, though the letters are more shadow than paint now. You might spot an old storefront half buried in brush, or a steeple through the trees, but there's no movement, no people, no sounds, just heat and silence and the strange sense that something is watching. But Katerina hasn't always been forgotten. Back in the 1920s, it was a hopeful little place, a stop for rail workers and oil men, a hub for farmers and wanderers. There were shops, a schoolhouse, even a small train station. People grew gardens in their backyards, roses, squash, okra. The soil was good, better than it had any right to be. Things grew fast, too fast maybe. That's where the story starts, with the soil. No one knew why things grew so well in Katerina. Old folks used to joke it was cursed in reverse, that the devil himself gave the town his blessing, so the crops would grow fat and sweet. Tomatoes the size of melons, corn that could shade a man's house, strawberries that bled red as meat. The ground would give you what you wanted, anything, so long as you didn't dig too deep. Then came the droughts, the dust, the long summer of '39 when nothing grew anywhere else. Katerina should have withered like all the rest, but it didn't. While the rest of South Texas baked and cracked under a yellow sky, Katerina flourished. The gardens bloomed thicker, the vines crept farther. People started locking their windows at night, not because of thieves, but because the vines had a way of crawling inside. One woman claimed she found a sprout growing out of her pillow. Another swore the roots had started breathing, sucking air through the floorboards. Kids got sick, dogs barked at the dirt, and the ground got soft. Not muddy, soft, like something was moving underneath it. Then the disappearances started. The first to vanish was a girl named Nancy Duarte, 13, quiet, sweet. She loved to sit out back of her parents' house and braid flower crowns. One night she didn't come in. They found her the next morning. Well, parts of her. A leg tangled in a thicket of sunflowers, skin torn open like it had been scooped from the inside. After that, the gardens were burned, every last one. Men with torches and shovels dug and scorched and salted the earth. But nothing died. The next morning, everything had regrown, thicker, darker. The stems had thorns, the flowers smelled like blood, and beneath the petals, the roots were twitching. People tried to leave. Of course they did, but cars stalled. Horses refused to move past the town's edge. Roads changed somehow. You'd head west and find yourself back at the water tower 20 minutes later. No matter how far they drove or walked, Katerina pulled them back like a hook in the spine. By 1941, the town was down to 20 people. By 1943, it was empty. At least that's what they say. See, some folks still go looking. Curious types, paranormal investigators, urban explorers. They bring cameras and gear and bravado. And sometimes they come back, shaken, pale, talking too fast. Sometimes they don't. One guy, a photographer from Austin, made it out with just one photo. The rest of his film was scorched black. But that one shot, it showed a garden behind an old farmhouse, just like the ones described in the stories. But the flowers were wrong. Huge, almost alien-looking, with blossoms like mouths and petals like tongues. One of them was open, wide as a man's torso, and inside was something. Someone. Just a glimpse of a human eye, wide, screaming. There are rumors now that the soil in Katerina isn't soil at all. It's flesh. That something lives under that town. Something old. Something that fed on the people and kept the gardens lush as a kind of lure. Something with roots and eyes and an intelligence that pulses through the flowers like blood through veins. The locals say if you drive through Catarina and roll down your window, you can still smell it. The sweetness of overripe fruit mixed with rot. And if you listen closely, over the hum of the wind and the chirping of unseen insects, you'll hear something whisper your name. Not a voice. More like the way a tree might whisper if it had lungs, if it had teeth, and if you stop, if you get out of your car, even for a second, you'll see them. The flowers, still blooming, still feeding, still waiting. Catarina didn't die. Catarina feeds. Griffin. Texas doesn't show up on most maps anymore. Even the locals in the next town over treat it like a bad memory, something they heard about once as a kid, but don't bring up at dinner. If you ask about it, they'll shrug, maybe chuckle nervously, maybe lie. Nothing out there but ruins, they'll say. Old fort, couple rocks, coyote piss, and tumbleweed. Place fell apart 100 years ago. They're wrong, of course. Griffin didn't fall apart. Griffin was buried. It started with the fort, Fort Griffin, built in 1867 to defend the frontier. But from the very beginning, it was strange. Soldiers went mad out there. They reported voices in the mesquite trees, shapes moving just outside the firelight. The ground would shiver sometimes, like something was crawling beneath it. And the dogs. The dogs would howl all night and drop dead by morning. Not from disease, just dead. With black gums and eyes rolled white. Some said it was the Comanche spirits, angered by blood on sacred land. Others swore it was just bad luck and whiskey. But there was something else, something deeper, something that kept clawing its way into the soldiers' dreams. It happened in the fall of 1871, when a detachment stumbled onto a pit while digging latrines behind the barracks. A natural hole, or so it looked at first, but there was a pattern to the rocks around it. Symbols carved deep, ancient, not tribal, older. They never could match the language. And the hole, it was bottomless. They dropped a torch down once. It never landed. After that, things got worse. Men went missing. Some were found later, fused to the walls of the barracks like something had melted them into the stone. One private tried to gouge his own eyes out with a spoon, raving about bone angels, singing under the dirt. The commander sealed off the pit, had the men dig trenches around it and fill them with lime and ash. He even tried to blow the place up with kegs of powder, but the ground refused to crack. No crater, no fire, just a low sound, like a moan made by a dying god. Then came the screaming. It started on moonless nights, always after midnight. A sound that didn't echo, didn't belong, like dozens of voices stretched into one long howl. It would rise and rise until the men bled from the nose and ears. It came from the ground, but it vibrated in their skulls, and once you heard it, you could never unhear it. A few men walked into the darkness and never came back. One shot himself and left behind a note, "It's not dead. It was never dead. We fed it. Now it remembers." They abandoned the fort within a month. Officially, it was because of funding cuts, bandit threats, or some made-up structural damage. But the truth was buried, same as the pit. Locals built a fake cemetery over the site. Someone even planted cotton. But nothing ever grew right. The earth turned black and oily, and birds stopped flying overhead. Decades passed. Griffin vanished. Just an old name on old paper. But some nights, some specific nights, you can still hear it. I've been there twice. First time was in '92, when I was still chasing ghost stories for a low-rent Texas pulp magazine. I found the fort, or what's left of it. Stone foundations sunk deep, like the land was swallowing them slow. I camped near the old officers' quarters, half laughing at myself. At around 2:13 a.m., it started. Just a hum at first, like wind howling through a bottle. Then it thickened, guttural, layered, like bone grinding on bone, mixed with screams that didn't sound human. The second time I went was this year. I brought audio gear, EMF meters, hell, even holy water. But none of it mattered. The screaming came again, louder, and this time I heard words inside it. Not English, not anything earthly, but it spoke. To me, promised things, showed me faces in the dirt, people I knew, people long dead, their mouths sewn shut, their eyes wide open. When the stars align just right over Griffin, and they do once or twice a year, the pit wakes, and when it wakes, something in it stirs. Not a demon, not a ghost. Worse, something the soldiers tried to hide, to trap with salt and fire and dead men's bones. A hunger that remembers its last meal. A thing so old, even the Comanche didn't name it. They just avoided the area and prayed harder. They say bones still rise out of the ground some nights, bleached white and steaming in the cold air, as if whatever's underneath gets restless and starts shaking off its blankets. One rancher found a skeleton shaped like a man, but its skull was too long and its fingers were too many. I keep a chunk of stone from the pit in my study, a reminder. It hums sometimes, pulses like a heart. I should throw it away, but I think it's part of me now, or I'm part of it. The screaming stopped after that last visit, not because it ended, because I understand it now. Griffin isn't forgotten. It's waiting. And the next time the stars are right, the bones won't stay buried. They'll walk, just like they did before. Bantam was one of those Texas ghost towns that never really had a reason to begin with. A schoolhouse, 2 churches, a general store, a few picket fences. People built lives there anyway. Sometimes that's all it takes, a flat patch of land and a little hope. But hope dries up quick in places like Bantam, and what's left behind starts to rot in the sun. They say the last of the living moved out in 1952, but if you stand on the road leading in, what's left of it anyway, you'll swear you can still hear kids laughing or crying, maybe both. The place is all but dust now, nothing but skeletons of buildings and rusted playground swings that creak in the wind like they're remembering something. The old red schoolhouse is still standing somehow. The paint peeled, the windows shattered, but the bell tower still sits up top, proud and intact, and the bell rings, always at midnight. No wind, no birds, no footsteps leading in or out. Just one long toll, like someone up there remembers what time school used to start. And if you're unlucky enough to hear it, you'll hear more than just the bell. The first person to go looking was a drunk from Abilene. Roy Garner, they say. Thought he'd turn ghost stories into gold. Walked into Bantam one August night with a bottle of wild turkey and a camcorder. He set up camp right outside the schoolhouse and cracked jokes into the lens about spooks and shadows. At 11:59, the tape shows Roy sitting in front of the camera, glassy-eyed but grinning. Then the bell rang. Only once. After that, the tape gets weird, static. Then the sound of feet, lots of feet, tiny ones, moving fast across wood. Children's voices whispering things like, "It's time," and "You're late," and a scrape, like fingernails down chalkboards. Roy was never seen again. They found his camcorder months later, half buried under the swing set, still warm to the touch, even though the batteries were long dead. The town's history isn't long, but it's stained. The school opened in 1911, and for a while, it was a good place. A little crowded maybe, but safe, until Miss Cartwright came. She was the last teacher Bantam ever hired. Young, soft-spoken, came from somewhere up north, with fancy degrees and no friends. People said she was strange but polite. She'd stare too long at nothing and talk to herself in the supply closet. No one ever saw her eat. But she had a way with the kids. Quiet kids, angry kids, didn't matter. She made them all listen, made them all stay after school. Then the fire happened. March 4th, 1948, middle of the day, smoke pouring from every window. The front doors chained shut from the inside. By the time help came from the next town over, the roof had caved in. They found Miss Cartwright's body in the bell tower, her eyes burned black, but wide open, her hands wrapped tight around the bell rope. They never found the children. 38 students were enrolled that spring. 38 desks, 38 lunch pails. No bodies, no bones, just soot and silence. After that, no one could keep a home in Bantam. The church burned down. The general store collapsed overnight. Dogs wouldn't go near the place. The wind started to sound wrong, like it wasn't blowing but breathing. They tried to bulldoze the schoolhouse once. State-funded demolition crew, brand new machines. Everything went dead the moment they touched the gravel road. Engines seized, radios screamed. One guy's hair turned white right there in the cab. Said he saw kids in the second-floor window, mouths sewn shut, pressing their palms to the glass like they were trapped on the other side of something too thick to break. Now nobody touches Bantam. Kids dare each other to drive past it at night, but none of them stay. Not if they're smart. Because if you linger near the schoolhouse, if you're still when that bell rings, you'll hear the rope creaking, you'll hear desks dragging across the floor, and sometimes you'll hear your own name called from the black. They don't forget, they don't leave, they want you to stay, forever, just like they did. So when the bell rings, you run. You don't look back. You don't answer the voices calling from the classroom window, because once you do, they know you're listening. And once you're listening, you're already part of the class. Redwood Hollow was a logging town once, tucked deep inside a forgotten stretch of East Texas pine country. It looked like any other sleepy town at first. Dusty roads, wooden porches sagging under years of neglect, and that sweet pine smell mixing with the faint scent of rot. The sawmill was the heartbeat of the place for decades. Men came in at dawn, their hands cracked and stained with sap and blood, swinging axes and running chainsaws until the sun dropped low. But the mill shut down 20 years ago, and the woods never stopped. They say the forest remembers everything. Every blade of grass, every broken branch, every whisper carried on the wind. The loggers who cut too deep, the men who vanished without a trace, the children who played too close to the darkening edges. They're all still there, in a way you don't want to understand. The first sign something was wrong came from old Joe Turner. Joe was a lifelong resident, a man who could read the trees like a book. One spring morning, he showed up at the town bar with his eyes wild and his hands trembling, swearing he'd seen the forest move on its own. Branches bending without wind, shadows slipping between trunks that weren't there the day before. He said the trees whispered to him at night, calling his name. The sheriff laughed it off, but Joe was found dead in his cabin a week later, his body twisted like a broken doll, face frozen in a scream. After Joe, things got stranger. People started hearing screams from the woods, sharp, desperate cries, that pierced the night like a knife. Sometimes it sounded like a woman, sometimes a child, sometimes something that was neither. Dogs would howl and flee, refusing to set paw beyond the town limits after sunset. A group of teenagers, drunk and daring, decided to camp in the forest one summer. They brought flashlights, beer, and bravado. But when dawn broke, 3 were gone. The others found their way back, broken and silent, eyes empty like they'd seen something no human should. They never spoke of what happened, but the sheriff's deputy found strange scratch marks around their campsite, deep and clawed, as if the trees themselves had reached out. The old sawmill still stands on the edge of town, rusted and rotten, swallowing the last daylight. But at night, when the wind dies and the forest falls silent, a faint grinding noise hums through the air, like saw blades turning in slow, deliberate circles. Some say the mill never really shut down, that the forest keeps it alive, feeding it with something dark and hungry, that every tree felled left a memory, and every memory turned into something that waits beneath the bark and moss. No one who stayed past dark has ever left unmarked. Scars, nightmares, missing time, things people can't explain but feel deep in their bones. And the forest, it's watching, patient, waiting. One night, a lone traveler passed through Redwood Hollow. He was a man with no name and a past too heavy to carry. He didn't believe in curses or ghosts or whispered warnings. He wanted to see the woods for himself. He entered at dusk. By morning, all anyone found was his truck at the town's edge, doors unlocked, engine running, but no sign of the man. Just a single set of footprints leading into the forest, and none coming out. The townsfolk say Redwood Hollow takes what it wants, and it never forgets. If you ever hear the forest calling your name in the dead of night, don't answer, because once it knows you, you belong to the woods forever. There used to be a sawmill in Texla, back when the trees were taller than God, and the air smelled like resin and wet soil. The kind of small East Texas logging town where everyone knew your name, your blood type, and what time your porch light went on. It was a quiet place, save for the buzz of chainsaws and the dull, thudding growl of trees falling in the distance, and the screaming. Not all the time, of course. That would have driven folks out sooner. But once in a while, usually around twilight, or when the sky turned the color of an old bruise, you'd hear something out in the pines. Not a bobcat, not a coyote. Something wrong. Too human, too close, and always coming from deep in the woods, where even the loggers didn't go unless they had to. They said the pines around Texla never stopped growing. Even when the mill shut down in '58 after the accident, the one with the loader that crushed 3 men flat as paper. They kept pushing up toward the sky, thick and black and oily with sap. The company tried to reopen it once in the '60s, sent in some boys from Austin to inspect the place. They didn't make it past the main gate. One of them had a seizure on the gravel drive. The other clawed his own arms until they looked like hamburger and screamed about something listening. After that, they just left the place to rot, and rot it did. The mill sagged in on itself like a drunk on a bar stool. The windows shattered, the floorboards caved, but the woods got thicker. There's an old woman named Clara Price still living out there. Has a trailer on cinder blocks near the old logging road. Folks say she used to be the secretary at the mill, back when it was running. She's about 90 now, skin like dry tobacco, and a voice like torn paper. When she talks, It's always about the forest. The trees, she says. They remember. Ask her what they remember, and she'll just look past you, toward the pines. Men went in and didn't come out. Some of them came back wrong, hollow-eyed and quiet. Said they saw a woman made of bark. Said she whispered promises, always promises. Then the fire happened. She means the 1958 fire, the one that killed 5 men who were burning slash in the Northern Tract. That wasn't a normal fire, no matter what the reports said. Witnesses said it moved against the wind, crawled like a living thing, and screamed. I'm not talking the crackle of burning branches. I mean screamed. A noise like something boiling alive. When it was over, there was nothing left but blackened soil, not even bones. Kids still dare each other to go out there, into the forest past the mill. They bring flashlights and phones, laugh like it's a game. They always come back a little different. Pale, jumpy. One boy, Jamie something, wouldn't stop twitching for weeks. Said he heard a man sobbing, like his guts were being pulled out slow. Said he saw eyes too, big ones, in the trees, watching, always watching. Another girl, Haley Perez, ran screaming out of the woods barefoot and bleeding. Couldn't tell anyone what happened. Just kept saying, the tall man, the one with no mouth. He puts them in the trees. Sheriff won't go near the place. Says it's private land now, but even the new owners, some out-of-state developer, gave up. Their foreman vanished on day 1. Van was still idling in the lot, doors open. No trace of him, not even footprints. Clara Price says it's because we made the trees angry. They were old before we got here, she told me. Older than names. And we cut them, we bled them. Now they want us to feel it. Some nights, if you stand near the tree line and the wind is still, you'll hear them. Not the trees, not the animals. Them. Screams, whispers. Once, someone swore they heard a baby crying. Another time, laughter. High, wet, choking laughter that went on far too long. No one lives in Texla anymore. Not really. Just Clara, and she's more a ghost than a woman now. But the woods are alive, and they're listening. They never shut down. They just got quiet. Quiet like a breath held. Quiet like something waiting. And you can only hold your breath for so long. There are places in Texas where the wind sounds different. Places where the dirt won't stay on the ground and the stars seem to blink slower, like they're watching something below. Claremont is one of those places. A sun-bleached skeleton of a town clinging to the edge of the caprock, where nothing lives long and nothing dies right. It used to be a dot on the map, a real town with churches, a schoolhouse, 2 grocery stores, and a single red brick jail squatting like a forgotten tooth in the center of town. The jail's still there. It always has been. But now, the windows are black, and the front doors chained shut with iron so thick you'd think it was holding back the devil himself. Maybe it is. The last man to walk into that jail and not walk out was Sheriff Amos Talbot, spring of 1932. Folks still whisper about that night, April 12th, when the clouds rolled in so low they scraped the telephone wires and the wind whipped through town like it had a blade in each hand. Everyone remembered the sky. It was the color of bruises, green and purple, glowing with a strange, sickly hue that made even the dogs stop barking. Talbot was a hard man, the kind of lawman who didn't ask questions once he made up his mind. Bootleggers feared him. So did folks in town, if they were honest. They said he once pistol-whipped a drifter for spitting near the church. Another time, he dragged a boy by his ear all the way to the jail for stealing peaches. He believed in law and order the way other men believe in scripture, with fire in his eyes and a rope in the back seat of his cruiser. That night, the call came from the edge of town. A vagrant, someone said, tall, pale, wandering up near the old cemetery road, muttering to himself in a language that didn't sound like English or Spanish or anything in between. Sheriff Talbot didn't hesitate. He got in his Ford and drove into the teeth of the storm. They never saw him again. Oh, they found the cruiser all right, parked right in front of the jail the next morning. Driver's door wide open, engine still ticking with leftover heat. His hat sat on the front seat like it was waiting for him to come back and claim it. His service revolver was missing. So was the man himself, the only real clue. The jail door was open, not broken, not forced, just gently swinging back and forth like someone had left in a hurry or been invited in. Inside, the flashlight was still on, spinning in slow circles on the floor of cell 2, casting shadows up the walls like hands trying to crawl out. No sign of a struggle, no blood, no boot prints, just a chill in the air that raised the hair on the back of your neck, even in the middle of May. They sealed the jail that afternoon, welded the doors shut, and nailed iron bars across the windows. Preacher Cale from the Baptist church came down to pray over the place, but halfway through his reading from Revelation, his nose started to bleed, and he passed out cold on the porch steps. When he came to, all he said was, "There's something still in there, watching." Over the years, folks tried to forget. Claremont withered away like a peeled apple on a hot day. The rail line dried up, the school shut down, families left one by one. By 1950, the last store closed its doors, but the jail never changed, never rusted, never cracked, just sat there, watching the town die, brick by cursed brick. People still talk about the knocking. It starts slow, always just past midnight. 3 soft knocks on the inside of the door, like a polite visitor, or a child who's learned to be quiet when asking for something it shouldn't have. The brave ones stayed to listen. Said the knocks sometimes came with a voice, deep and slow, like molasses sliding off a knife. Let me ride again. Once, in 1978, a film student from Dallas tried to make a documentary. She brought cameras, audio gear, the works. Set everything up on a warm April night, the anniversary of Talbot's disappearance. The next morning, she was gone. Her car still parked at the edge of town, her gear left scattered on the ground, like she'd just vanished in the middle of filming. They found her camcorder facing the jail. The tape inside had melted, literally melted, like it had been held over a flame. Locals still talk about the photos that came out blurry, warped, or worse. Faces caught in the reflections of the jail's windows, faces no one recognized, eyes like burnt holes, grins stretched far too wide. Once, someone claimed to hear children giggling behind the bars, but there were never any kids locked in that jail, not officially. A few folks still keep an eye on the place. Old Man Sweeney, who runs the bait shop out by the reservoir, says he sees lights flickering inside sometimes. Swears he saw Sheriff Talbot himself once, standing in the doorway, face half in shadow. Said the man raised his hand like he wanted to tip his hat, but there was nothing there, just a black smudge where his head should have been. Now, no one in Claremont will go near the jail after dark. Hell, most won't even drive past it. But the knocking still comes, always in threes, always on April 12th. And lately, it's louder, faster, like fists now, or hooves. They say if you stand close enough, you can feel the door vibrate, like something's trying to come through, not to escape, but to ride again. So if you're ever passing through Claremont on a lonely night and you hear 3 knocks from the jail, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't look back. Because the thing inside isn't Sheriff Talbot anymore. And it's not waiting for rescue. It's waiting for a partner. There's a sun-bleached corner of Texas where the land crunches when you walk on it, like something under the dirt is just waiting to turn over and breathe again. That place is Langtree, a town that still calls itself a town, even though it's barely a memory on the map. Most folks only stop for gas or to stretch their legs before heading west toward Del Rio or the border. They don't stay, and the ones that do, they don't stay long. But if you stand at the edge of town and look out past the mesquite and thorn bush, you'll see it. The old courthouse and saloon of Judge Roy Bean. The law west of the Pecos, the sign still says in fading black paint, and the building itself leans just a little to the left, like it's tired of standing upright but too proud to fall. Judge Roy Bean's been dead more than 100 years, but Langtree never forgot him. Maybe because he made damn sure they wouldn't. People know the legend. Bean was no real judge, not by any standard outside his own. He held court in the saloon, fined dead men for carrying weapons, let outlaws go if he liked their hats. But the worst of it, the part most folks don't talk about, is what he did after the hangings. The way he'd keep the bodies, not bury them, no sir. He'd hang them and then lock the corpses in the back room for legal observation. Said the law had to witness its own justice for a full week, but 7 days turned into weeks, months even. He kept them strung up in the heat, behind those saloon doors, their skin shriveling like old jerky. He talked to them, drank with them, called them by name, and made toasts to their crimes. Sometimes travelers heard laughter coming from inside, late at night, long after the place should have gone dark. Then came the day. Judge Bean dropped dead in 1903, collapsed right at the bar with a bottle of whiskey in his hand and a grin on his face, like he knew a secret he wasn't taking to the grave. They buried him behind the saloon, next to a cactus with 4 arms that looked like it was trying to claw its way out of the sand. But the strange thing, the real strange thing, was that after he died, the saloon never went quiet. You could still hear the creak of the noose, the soft thud of boots swinging back and forth. The smell, too, leather and rot and sour whiskey, like the air itself hadn't changed since the 1800s. One man, a historian from Austin, came to visit in the summer of 1976. Stayed overnight inside the building with his tape recorder. Next morning, he was found sitting in a corner, eyes wide, muttering. He made me sit through the whole trial. All of it. 27 hours. The tape was blank, completely erased, like nothing had ever been recorded. After that, the state tried to close the place down, seal it off. But every time someone tried to board up the windows or chain the doors, the chains would break. The nails would go missing. One time, they found a dead rattlesnake nailed to the front step with a judge's gavel through its skull. The folks in town just started avoiding the place. Better to let the dead do what they will, so long as they stay in their house. But things didn't stay contained. It's the sound that gets you first. A kind of low groan, like timber settling, but not quite. People say it sounds more like someone breathing heavy through broken ribs. Then there's the hammering, not with tools, not nails or boards. A gavel, they say, falling again and again on a wooden bar soaked in blood and spit and regret. And the rope. You don't see it until it's too late. Tourists vanish sometimes, not often enough to make headlines, but enough for the sheriff to keep a list in his desk drawer. A couple from Ohio, a hitchhiker from Arizona, a teen from San Angelo who wandered in on a dare. They all disappeared near the saloon, and when they vanish, a new length of rope appears behind the bar. Fresh hemp, clean knot. Always 13 coils, Judge Bean's favorite. Some say he's still in there, walking the warped floorboards in his black coat, looking for the next man to hang. Only now, it doesn't matter if you're guilty or not. The trial's just a formality. The verdict never changes, and the sentence, well, it's carried out before you can blink. Sometimes the locals hear voices when the wind kicks up, deep and hoarse, and full of old Texas heat. All rise, it says, the Honorable Judge Roy Bean presiding. And God help you if you do stand up, because then he knows you're listening. And once he knows you're listening, it's too damn late to walk away. Langtree isn't on most maps anymore, but if you ever do find yourself passing through, if you see that sign, and the peeling paint, and the sun setting like a blood orange behind the saloon, keep driving. Don't stop. Don't even look, because the judge is still holding court, and he's never short on rope. The land around Medicine Mound doesn't welcome you. It watches you. It always has. The wind smells dry and old there, like burnt offerings and forgotten prayers. They say the grass doesn't grow the same on that stretch of Texas soil, and they're right. It's thinner, duller, brittle underfoot. And if you stop long enough to listen, you'll swear the mounds breathe. There are 3 of them, rising up from the flat earth like sleeping giants. Locals call them sacred. The Comanche called them something older. Not names exactly, warnings. They knew what lived there before the mounds ever had names. Knew it and feared it. Even now, the oldest ranchers won't go near after sundown, and the ones that do don't speak much after. But not everyone listens to old warnings, especially not in places like this, where time dries up like everything else, and history is just another weight on your shoulders. It was the summer of 1992 when the fire came back. There was no lightning that night, no campfire gone wrong, no matches or cigarettes or teenagers with too much beer and not enough sense. Just the wind picking up around 10 p.m., like it does sometimes in Texas, and the smell. Sweet at first, almost floral, then acrid and sharp like burning hair and grease. Diane Holbrook was the first to see it. She was walking her dog, an old mutt named Scooter, when she saw a figure standing between the first and second mounds. At first, she thought it was a drifter, some poor bastard caught out in the open. But then it lit up, from the inside. She described it later, her voice shaking over the sheriff's tape recorder. It was a man, I think. I think it used to be a man. He was standing still but burning, not screaming, not running, just standing there like he'd been burning for 100 years and forgot what pain was. And the fire didn't flicker. It just clung to him, like it wanted to stay. Scooter barked once and ran back toward the house. Diane wasn't far behind. They found scorch marks the next morning, not just on the ground, but on the fence posts, in a straight line, from the mounds to town, charred in a way that didn't make sense, blackened, but cold. No ashes, just emptiness. That night, 2 more people saw the burning figure. Old Joe Morris, who lived alone in a trailer behind the abandoned gas station, said it came right up to his window. Looked at me with eyes full of smoke, he whispered. Didn't blink, just watched. I could hear it crackling. They found Joe dead the next morning. Not burned. No smoke in the trailer. Just dead. Staring at the window with his mouth open like he died in the middle of a scream. The town started buzzing after that. Whispers. The kind people carry in their pockets but never speak in daylight. They remembered the old stories, the ones that never made it into books. See, back in the 1800s, long before the town even had a name, the land around Medicine Mound was considered forbidden. Not just sacred, dangerous. Comanche warriors avoided it during hunts. Shamans warned travelers to stay clear. They believed the mounds weren't just hills, but prison bars, that something had been buried beneath them, something that burned. They said it was a man once, a traitor, a killer, a spirit with fire in its blood, cursed to burn forever for what he did to his tribe. They chained him with ritual, sealed him under rock and soil and prayer. But even fire doesn't stay buried forever. In 1922, white settlers built too close. One even tried to dig a well near the third mound. The fire came that night. They called it an accident, dry brush, a dropped lantern, a fluke. 4 people died. No one rebuilt, but memory fades, and land gets cheap. By the time the 90s rolled around, Medicine Mound was just another blip between bigger towns, a place people passed through, if they noticed it at all, until the fire walked again. Each night, it got closer. By the end of the week, you could see the glow from Main Street. It didn't move fast, didn't need to. Just stood there, night after night, each time a little nearer. No footsteps, no words. Just the sound of crackling heat and the smell of smoke that clung to your clothes, even if you never left your house. The sheriff tried to stop it. He loaded his cruiser with his old shotgun and a bottle of whiskey for courage, then drove out toward the 3 mounds. No one saw him come back. When they found his cruiser days later, it was sunken into the dirt like the earth had swallowed it whole. The shotgun lay on the hood, untouched, as if he'd stepped out for just a moment and vanished. People started leaving after that. Quietly at first, then all at once. But some stayed. They said you couldn't run from what was waiting in those mounds. And maybe they were right. The dreams began. Every night, the same dark voice whispering words no one could understand, crawling under their skin like fire ants. The burning wasn't outside, it was inside, deep in their guts and bones. Then the mounds themselves began to stir, splitting apart slowly, as if something underneath was trying to break free. One man, Jed Harper, was found wandering near the biggest mound, his hands scorched black, carving strange symbols into the dirt with a knife. He claimed the fire spoke to him, said it was hungry for memories, memories of the dead, the living, and the forgotten. A preacher came from the next town, over to cleanse the land, but he barely made it to the edge of the mounds. He screamed about shadows rising from the soil, hands reaching up like roots, trying to drag him under. They found him days later, muttering prayers no one recognized, eyes wild and burning with a strange light. Then the fire came out of the ground. It moved slow, like smoke caught in a windless room, but everywhere it touched, the earth cracked and hissed. The sky darkened with ash, and the air smelled of burnt bone. At night, people swore they heard it. Footsteps made of flame circling the town, whispering names of those long dead. No one dared open their doors after midnight. But in the morning, every house had the same mark burned into its frame. 3 cracked mounds and a flickering flame. The fire stopped, but the ground kept moving. Graves cracked open, fresh dirt sliding away like wet ash. Some say the fire wants more than the town. It wants the souls buried beneath. No one talks about what happened to Sheriff Walker, but those who pass the mounds say you can still hear his last shotgun blast, echoing beneath the burning earth. And sometimes, when the wind carries just right, you can hear him calling, warning anyone foolish enough to come near. Because the fire is patient, it waits for the next soul to forget where they are. It waits for the next step too close. And when the time comes, it will rise again, not as smoke, not as heat, but as hunger. There's something wrong with St. DeRowan, Nebraska. Not the kind of wrong you see right away. Not like boarded up windows or cracked sidewalks or rusted out Chevys with grass growing through the floorboards. No, it's quieter than that. A silence that doesn't just settle on the town, but sinks into it. A stillness you feel in your bones the second your car tires cross the edge of the tree line. The birds stop singing. The wind forgets how to blow. And if you listen closely enough, you can hear breathing that isn't yours. It was a real town once, a river stop, a fairy town, back when the Missouri still mattered. People passed through on their way west, and some stayed, built homes, raised kids, founded a church. The Church of the Redeemer's Cross, they called it. Simple, wooden, whitewashed and weathered like every other old church on the prairie. But the people who worshipped there weren't Methodists or Baptists or Catholics. Not really. They just pretended to be. The thing about Saint-Héroin is that it didn't die like most ghost towns do. It didn't rot or starve or get swallowed by the march of time. It was swallowed by something else entirely. The church is still standing. That's the first thing you'll notice when you roll in. If you're dumb enough to roll in. It sits on a low rise, steeple cracked, cross half rotted and slouching like a drunk too tired to pray. But look a little closer and you'll see it. The windows aren't dusty. They're clean. The door's not nailed shut or chained. It's slightly ajar, like it's waiting for you. And inside, it smells like myrrh and wet earth and something sweet that turns sour the longer you breathe it in. The pews are lined in neat rows. Fresh candles sit in the holders, unlit. There's no dust, no cobwebs, no sign of time at all, except for the feeling, thick as molasses, that you're being watched from every dark corner. The altar holds a cross, but not a normal one. Not wooden or metal, not gold or silver or iron. This one's carved from bone, long bones, human probably, and the center is hollow, an empty circle where the vertical beam should meet the horizontal. A hollow cross, a door, some say, a mouth, say others. They say the townsfolk preached hard during the day. Loud, joyful, all smiles and songs and open arms. The sermons were about salvation and the end times and the glory of the coming one. Not Jesus, not exactly. Something older, something they never named in daylight. But when dusk hit, when the light slipped behind the trees and the shadows stretched long across the grass, the sermons changed. They didn't preach in English anymore. They lit the candles. They closed the doors. And whatever they whispered, it made the dogs in town howl until their throats bled. People started noticing things. Visitors would go missing. Sometimes whole families, sometimes just one child, usually the quiet one, the good one. They said It was the God they worshipped after sunset, the one that came through the hollow cross. I met a man once who claimed to be the last survivor of Saint-Rouen. Lived out in a nursing home in Missouri, didn't talk much. But when I mentioned the town, his eyes went white, not rolled back, white like milk had poured over them. He told me about the bell, said it rang every evening at 6:06 p.m., not 6:00, not 6:10, 6:06 sharp as a scalpel. And once it rang, the shadows in the church began to move, not shift, not stretch, move, like they had weight, like they had legs. He said they gathered at the hollow cross and waited. That's when the prayers began, not spoken, not sung, thought, in a rhythm that pulsed through the walls, like the church itself was alive and humming with bloodlust. The god came out just before full dark. It didn't walk, it poured. Down from the rafters, up through the floorboards, out of the mouths of the faithful. The man said it had no shape, only need, no name, only hunger, and once it took what it wanted, it slithered back into the cross, and the candles blew out all at once. And the next day, the town smiled, as if nothing had happened. 1 year, a missionary came, a real man of God, had a smile like a polished shoe and a voice that could melt butter. He stayed a night in the parsonage and didn't make it to breakfast. They say he tried to tear down the hollow cross. Say he struck it with a hammer. The next morning, the church steps were slick with something black and glistening, and they found the missionary inside, kneeling, eyes missing, hands fused together in prayer. The county tried to shut the town down after that, but the letters came back, stamped, no such town. The roads in were erased from maps, the ferry route rerouted. The world forgot about Saint-Rouen, but the church didn't forget. I went there once, just once. I was younger, dumber, chasing ghost stories like they owed me rent. Parked my truck a mile out and walked in. I swear to you, I heard the bell at 6:06 on the dot, and when I stepped inside the church, I saw shadows that weren't mine. I saw the hollow cross glow like it was backlit by hell itself, and I heard the voice, not loud, not deep, not in English. It whispered right into my skull, "Stay. Stay and be hollow too." I didn't stay. I ran until my lungs burned and my feet bled. I don't even remember getting in my truck. Just the feeling that something watched me all the way to the highway. Something that didn't walk, but slid. Don't go to Saint-Rouen. If you find it on a map, burn the map. If you hear the bell, cover your ears. And if you see the church, don't look at the cross, because their God still waits in that hollow, and dusk is never far away. Some places die, and you feel the relief in the earth. A town goes bankrupt, a factory closes, a mine collapses, whatever. The grass starts growing again. The air gets a little lighter. You can walk by and feel a kind of peace in your bones, like the land exhaled after holding its breath for too long. But Beeville Prison Farm, that place never exhaled. It choked. Ask the old-timers in B County about the prison farm, and you'll get one of two things: silence, or a Bible quote, muttered under breath and hurried through like it might work as a shield. There's no sign pointing to it anymore. Just a cracked asphalt road with no name, and a gate so rusted it looks like the skeleton of some iron beast. Beyond it, a long dirt path leads through dead oaks and prickly mesquite trees to what's left of the prison. A red brick husk squatting in the weeds, its windows like black eye sockets staring into a sunless world. It opened in 1911, closed in 1969, 58 years ago, by the official record. But the thing is, the screaming never stopped. They say it was meant to be a work farm, low-risk inmates, cotton pickers, vegetable harvesters, maybe a chain gang or two to keep the road smooth between Beeville and Pettis. But something happened out there in the fields, Raymond. Something bad, the kind of bad that stains the dirt forever. You won't read about it in books or official records. No one wants to talk about what they were really growing, but I've spoken to men, old corrections officers with cancerous lungs and fingers that twitch when it gets dark, who whispered things between coughs and sips of whiskey. One of them told me this: we planted crops. We harvested pain. It started small. One prisoner went missing, then another. Nothing made the papers. These were men no one cared about. Drifters, thieves, a few murderers. One runaway who got picked up for stealing bread from a store in Cuero. They just disappeared. When families asked, they were told the inmate had been transferred, escaped, or killed in a fight. Convenient lies. Neat little stories to keep things running smooth. But the guards knew. They heard the screams at night. Screams that didn't sound like they came from throats anymore. They started finding things. Teeth in the corn rows. Skin peeled like onions, hanging from barbed wire. Blood that wouldn't dry. Warden Elijah Goss ran the place. A big sweat-soaked Texan who never blinked and carried a Bible in one hand and a cattle prod in the other. He believed in punishment, believed in cleansing the soul with agony. Harvest in sin, he called it. He said every drop of pain a man bled out in that soil made the crops grow sweeter. But the crops started to change. The corn came in black some years, thick, greasy stalks with kernels that bled red when popped. The cotton grew fine and soft, but smelled like burnt hair. One year, a patch of squash opened, like mouths, real mouths, lined with baby teeth, chomping at anything that came near. They should have burned the place down then and there, but they didn't. They doubled down. In 1952, Goss brought in a preacher, a backwoods fire and brimstone lunatic named Brother Langley, who claimed he could sanctify the land, said it was hungry, and if they fed it right, it would give back in kind. He wasn't wrong. The prison kept going, quietly, secretly. Even after the state supposedly shut it down, men still went in. Not many came out, and the ones who did, well, let's just say they didn't stay right for long. One man, Silas Tretch, made it back to San Antonio. He lived in the Riverwalk tunnels, never coming up during the day. Said he saw God out in the Beeville fields, but God had too many legs and its mouth opened sideways. Then came the summer of 1969. A heat wave choked South Texas for 93 straight days. Power outages, water shortages, whole herds of cattle dropping dead in the fields, and one night, the lights came on in the prison again. Not flickering, not accident, every window glowing. Locals saw it from the highway. They heard the bell ringing, the chapel bell, the one Goss had hung in the center yard, cast from melted manacles and crucifixes. It hadn't rung in years, but it rang for 17 minutes straight that night. And the next morning, nothing was left of the inmates, just their uniforms, folded neat, placed on each bunk like they'd evaporated clean out of them. The fields were plowed flat, perfect, too perfect, like something had dragged 1,000 tongues through the earth, licking it clean. The state called it a structural hazard, claimed a chemical leak led to evacuation. They locked the gates, bulldozed the admin offices, buried the records in Austin, and the town was happy to forget. No one talked about the harvest anymore, but the land remembers. I visited last year, just to see. I shouldn't have. I knew better, but the stories clawed at me too long, and curiosity's a sickness I never could cure. I went in at noon, sun high, no wind, and still it was cold. The trees near the path were stripped bare, though it was spring. The grass didn't crunch underfoot. It squished, like stepping on wet carpet. The front doors of the prison creaked open by themselves. Inside, it smelled like sweat and candle wax and something faintly metallic, like an old church full of iron coffins. The halls were empty, but I could hear something. Whispering. Inmates. Guards. I couldn't tell. But it circled me wherever I walked. I reached the chapel, and the cross was gone. In its place was something else. Something tall and skinless, its body stitched together from a dozen different men. Its eyes were sewn shut, but it turned to me like it could see anyway. And its mouth, Raymond, its mouth was wide open, not screaming, not speaking, just offering. I ran. I didn't even try to make sense of it. I drove until I hit Corpus Christi, and even then I didn't feel safe. But sometimes, when I close my eyes, I still hear that bell. 17 rings, and I swear to you, something's still harvesting pain out there in Beeville. So if you ever find yourself lost on a Texas back road and you see a dirt lane with a rusted gate and rows of crops that look too perfect, don't stop. Don't turn down it. And if you hear a bell, run, because the harvest never ended. It begins, like most ghost stories in towns that smell like pine sap and rust, with a girl. A girl and a fall, and a scream that never stopped echoing. Eagle Nest, New Mexico, doesn't show up on many maps anymore. Used to be a mining town, then a fishing haven, then a nothing at all. The lake is calm, and the surrounding cliffs cut sharp against the sky like broken teeth. Wind moves through that town in a way that always sounds like it's whispering someone's name, or mourning something lost. Folks say that's just the canyon acoustics, but folks say a lot of things in Eagle Nest to explain away what their guts won't let them forget. The woman had a name once, Elena Rivas. She was 19, beautiful, and dirt poor. Her family worked the mines back when the town still bled silver and coal. She worked at the general store, then at the post office. Last anyone saw her, she was walking up toward the cliffs with a look in her eyes like she knew what waited. Some said it was grief. Others said she was being followed by something you couldn't see unless it wanted to be seen. This was 1932, before the fire, before the mine collapse, before the water started tasting like copper pennies soaked in sorrow. They say she screamed all the way down. The fall should have killed her, but that's the thing. Some swear it didn't. One fisherman, Eli Crane, swore on his mother's grave he saw her climbing out of the water, bones bent wrong, hair clinging to her face like weeds. She looked around, he said, like she didn't know where she was, or maybe like she knew exactly where she had to be. Then she disappeared into the woods. Eli wouldn't stop talking about it until his dog went missing, then his wife, and finally, he went missing himself. All they found was his boat, and scratches inside the hull, deep and sharp like from fingernails, except he didn't have any. He chewed them to the quick. The thing is, screams never really stopped around those cliffs. Every now and then, someone goes up there at night, on a dare, out of grief, or chasing one of those sick curiosities that only come alive when the moon's high and your life's gone sideways, and they hear her. Sometimes it's crying. Sometimes it's whispering. Once, a teenage boy said he heard her laugh. Said it was the most awful sound he'd ever heard, like a woman being tickled and drowned at the same time. His name was Corey Webb. He vanished 2 weeks later. They found his shirt and one shoe on the edge of the drop, but nothing else. Thing is, you can always tell when the wailing woman's been active. Dogs go silent, insects vanish, and there's this stench in the air, like wet silk and rotting fruit. And the air gets cold in a strange way. Not like snow, not like fall. It's a wet cold, the kind that creeps up your back and presses against your lungs, like the air itself is watching, waiting. Some say Elena wasn't running from a man or a monster. They say she jumped to escape her own shadow, but when she hit the water, she didn't die. She shed. That thing inside her, the thing that had been clawing and screaming, came out. And now, it wears her face. Not perfectly. Her mouth is too wide, her eyes too black. Like all the human drained out, and what was left decided to remember the shape, but only in pieces. My uncle swore he saw her. Back in '78, camping alone near the cliffs, said she didn't walk. She floated just above the earth, dragging the air behind her like a veil. She opened her mouth, and all he could hear was the scream of rushing water and breaking bones. He never went near the lake again. He lit a fire in his own living room 2 years later and sat down in it. The fire didn't kill him. That's the messed up part. The doctors said he died of a heart attack before the fire touched him. His eyes were wide open, and his face was locked in a look of terror no man should carry to the grave. I've heard the stories. I believed some, scoffed at others. But one summer, my curiosity got the better of me. I drove up to Eagle Nest. I parked by the lake, where tourists used to picnic. The sun was setting. The cliffs cast long shadows, and the wind was moving in slow, whispering swirls. I hiked up to the edge. The water far below glinted like a sheet of oil. That's when I heard her. It wasn't a scream. It was a question. Why did he bring me here? The voice was close, too close. I spun around. Nothing. Then it came again. Not from behind me, from inside me. Why did he bring me here? I don't know who he was. Maybe the man she'd been running from. Maybe something worse. But I felt it in my bones. That question wasn't meant to be answered. It was meant to linger. Like her. Then I saw her, just at the edge of the trees. Long dress wet and clinging, though there hadn't been rain in days. Her mouth hung open, too wide, like a snake's jaw just starting to unhinge. Her eyes were holes, empty, not even darkness, just nothing. I didn't run. I couldn't. My body froze. She tilted her head and took a step. I don't know how many more she took, because the next thing I remember, I was on my back at the bottom of the trail, hands covered in dirt, lips bleeding. I must have fallen, or maybe she let me go. I don't know, but I dream about her now. And in the dreams, I'm not me. I'm standing on the cliff in her dress, wind in my face, hair soaked, and I'm screaming. But I'm not falling, I'm waiting. So if you ever visit Eagle Nest, stay far from the cliffs. Don't listen for her. Don't try to talk to her. And if you hear a voice inside your own mouth asking, "Why did he bring me here?" don't answer. Because if you do, you might find yourself with her, still screaming, still waiting, still hungry. It starts with a wrong turn, like most things that go sideways do. A fork in the road that ain't supposed to be there. A sign too old to read. A map that gets fuzzy right where the dirt starts kicking up dust from a road nobody remembers paving. That's how people find Milliken, or rather, how it finds them. There used to be a town there, a railroad stop, a general store, a schoolhouse with squeaky desks, and a flag that flapped itself into rags. It was never a big place, no claim to fame, no haunted murders or legendary gold rushes, just a dot on the map where ranchers stopped to trade feed and maybe swig a cold one before heading back to nowhere. Then came the flood in 1899. It wasn't the water that wiped Milliken off the map. It was what came after. Folks rebuilt. They always do. But something had changed. Like the water had soaked into more than the soil. Like it had opened something. They say the first ones to notice were the children. Little things at first. A boy forgetting his own name during roll call. A girl who couldn't remember her baby brother existed. The doctor chalked it up to trauma, grief, maybe even fever. But then the adults began forgetting too. Mrs. Kimball forgot how to bake her own sourdough, a recipe she'd made every Sunday for 20 years. Lester Crawley came back from the hardware store and couldn't find his own house, even though he lived on that street since he was 6. Then came the worst part. People didn't just forget things. They forgot they forgot. They'd stand blank-eyed, staring into space, and when someone asked, "Do you remember what you were saying?" they'd blink like you'd slapped them and say, "Was I saying something?" Nobody remembers when the town sealed itself in. No more trains came through. The road signs rusted to skeletons. The maps stopped printing its name. Only old-timers, the real dusty ones in nursing homes and backwater diners, still whisper it sometimes. Milliken, they'll say, like tasting a word that don't belong in their mouths. Don't go there. You might come back. But something won't. Take Bobby DeWitt, a trucker out of Temple. Took a shortcut one night in '97. His rig showed up in College Station the next morning with the engine idling and his boots still on the floorboard. But Bobby wasn't in it. When they found him 3 days later, he was walking barefoot along Route 6, humming a song no one recognized. Couldn't say his name. Didn't know what year it was. The doctors called it a fugue state, but he had one word tattooed on his inner arm, fresh like it was burned there the night before. Milliken, when asked about it, he cried, not out of fear, but the kind of sobbing you hear from a man who knows he's lost something and can't figure out what, like his soul had a hole in it. I went there once, not on purpose. My GPS glitched out outside of Caldwell, rerouted me around construction that wasn't there. And next thing I know, I'm rolling into a fog-draped main street that looked like it was stuck in time. The kind of place where the gas pumps have price dials and the grocery store sign says, "Food and Sundries." A kid pedaled by on a rusted Schwinn, smiled at me like we'd known each other all our lives. But there was something in his eyes, something hollow. He looked like he was remembering me in real time, and whatever he was remembering, it hurt. I walked into the general store. The bell above the door didn't chime. The air inside smelled like mothballs and old pennies. The clerk behind the counter smiled and said, "Welcome back." I told him I'd never been there before. He said, "That's what they all say." I bought a soda and a pack of gum. When I got back to my car, I realized I didn't remember where I was driving to, or why. The soda in my hand was warm, unopened. My phone was dead. Not out of battery, dead. No icons, no buttons, just black. I drove out the way I came. The sun was setting sideways, like it didn't know where west was anymore. and behind me, in the rearview mirror, Milliken folded back into the trees and fog like it had never been there. I was lucky. Some people don't leave at all. Others drive home and realize they've forgotten the names of their own children. One woman, Cassandra from Austin, went missing for 6 hours. Came home and forgot how to speak English. Had to relearn it from scratch. Her therapist said it was psychogenic amnesia, but her husband said the strangest thing. She still makes coffee the same way. Same steps, same mug. But every morning she pours a second cup and sets it across the table and stares at it like she's waiting for someone. You see, Milliken doesn't steal everything all at once. It nibbles, bites away at the edges. A childhood toy, your best friend's laugh, the smell of your mother's hair. And the more you try to remember what's gone, the harder the world shakes under your feet. That's the worst part. It doesn't want you to forget everything. It wants you to know something's missing. It wants you to feel the gap, that itch just under the skin of your brain. And if you ever go back, if the road curves wrong or the air smells too still, and you see the sign, half rotted and swinging in the wind, Milliken, Texas, founded 1883. Don't stop. Don't even slow down. Because the town will remember you, even if you don't remember yourself. There's a sickness in the dirt out in Karnes County, and it's thickest in Helena. It's old, older than barbed wire, older than boot leather, older even than the Comanche ghosts that still whisper along the creek beds at night. You won't read about it in school books, and they won't tell you in tourist pamphlets. Not the real story anyway. They say Helena was the most violent town in Texas. That's the way it's always phrased, like it's some kind of honor, a bloody crown, a thing to be proud of. But the people who say that don't know what it really means. They don't know about the laughing judge, who used to sentence men to hang and made bets on whether their necks would break clean. They don't know about the sport killings either. See, Helena wasn't just violent, it played with death. Men would shoot each other in the street, and nobody would bat an eye. But worse than that were the games. They had something they called the Helena Duel. You slit open your enemy's belly, handed him a knife, and the two of you were tied together by the belt. The first one to die lost. It was supposed to be about honor, frontier justice, but it turned into something else, a contest, entertainment. Folks would gather round and bet on who'd bleed out first. And here's the thing, they liked it, laughed during it, clapped. Women brought their children. Preachers watched and said nothing. What kind of place does that to people? They say it ended when the railroad bypassed Helena, that the town dried up after that. But that's not why it died. No, Helena didn't die because it was forgotten. It died because it had to. There's something in the ground out there, something in the mesquite roots and the caliche dust, something that got into the people, made them wild-eyed and hot-blooded. You know what rage feels like, how it simmers and burns and pulses behind your eyes. Now, imagine a whole town where everybody feels that, all the time, where love curdles into hate overnight, where jealousy turns into murder over the dumbest thing. Stolen boots, a crooked card, the way someone laughs too loud. They didn't just kill in Helena, they enjoyed it. The sheriff was the worst of them. Big son of a bitch named Avery Rooks, black eyes like dead coals. He was judge, jury, and butcher. Wore a rope on his belt instead of a pistol. Didn't need to shoot a man. He'd just wait and the town would cough up blood on its own. Now, you want to hear something real fun? The town burned down in 1884. Everyone called it an accident. The wind picked up. Some hay caught fire. But that's not what really happened. Not if you believe the journals they found buried in the church cellar when they tried to build that museum a few years back. The entries were from a woman named Adeline Morse. She ran a boarding house on the edge of town. The pages are stiff with old blood and written in that tight, panicked script you only see in asylum notes. She said something had come up from the creek. Said the animals stopped eating. The babies were born wrong, and people started seeing a tall figure with no face standing behind them in the mirror. She said the rage was in the wind, that it hissed names through the keyholes. She wrote, "We are not ourselves anymore. We are the skin of people, and something else wears us." They found her skeleton locked in her root cellar, curled around a lantern that had long since gone cold. And that museum they tried to build never finished. Workers quit one after another. Tools went missing. One man's wife said he came home each night with more cuts on his body, like tiny teeth marks. You can still visit Helena. There's a cemetery, a few ruins, and the old courthouse, which they've propped up like a drunk uncle at a wedding. You might think it's just another ghost town, the kind of place Instagram hikers pose in, with filtered sunsets and cowboy boots. But you stay too long, just long enough, and you'll feel it. Like someone watching you from behind the mesquite trees. Like your hands start twitching, like they want to grip something sharp. Like your blood runs hotter than it used to. People who camp there talk about the dreams. Not nightmares exactly, but urges. Vivid, violent ones. Like punching someone's teeth out because they looked at you wrong. Like waking up with your fingers clenched around a rock and no memory how it got there. One guy, Dean Miller from Corpus Christi, took his fiancée out to Helena to take engagement photos among the ruins. She vanished while he was adjusting his tripod. He found her 20 minutes later in the ruins of the church, scratching her name into the wall over and over with a piece of broken glass. She didn't remember doing it. Didn't remember Dean either.